Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mediator. I'm your host, Jonah St. Cloud. Thank you to all who are listening. We have a lot to discuss today, and the big news of this week, and actually the last couple weeks, is Trumpcare, or the American Health Care Act, is its official name. First, I just kind of want to list off exactly what this bill does. So, it eliminates the individual and employer mandates, keeps the pre-existing conditions and the age 26 dependent requirements. Continues the expansion of Medicaid until 2020 with, I believe I read $100 billion going to states in total up until then to assist them in doing so. A federal financing limit based on the number of people enrolled under particular categories in each state. It allows insurers to raise rates up to 30% for people with gaps in coverage. It gives age-based tax credits ranging from $2,000 to $4,000 per year. Extra tax to people who are in the top tier of insurance plans, and Planned Parenthood is ineligible for Medicaid reimbursements. So yeah, that's the bulk of it. Obviously, it's a 123-page bill, so there's a lot more little pieces here and there. Look, my take on this is that it's just painfully horrendous. A huge part of Trump's campaign platform was repealing and replacing Obamacare, and this is just not that. As Rand Paul said, it's really just Obamacare light. Now, obviously, there are good things about it. It's not an absolute horrendous mess, like the elimination of the mandates, the eventual slashing of Medicare funding, getting closer to removing the cap on what insurance businesses are allowed to... what insurance businesses are allowed to charge for, their premiums and whatnot. Planned Parenthood not being eligible for Medicaid reimbursements. But one of the biggest and worst parts of Obamacare was the requirement for insurance companies to cover those with pre-existing conditions. And, the only reason that this part of it didn't tank economically is because of the mandate. So the mandate was pretty much specifically added to offset the cost of the pre-existing conditions coverage with an influx of healthy people that are, forced to get the coverage they won't use. And I hate the mandate, and I think it's like an authoritarian concept for the government to force someone to enter into a business arrangement by law. But you have to have either both or neither. It's just stupid to only keep one or the other. Also, why is the government telling insurance businesses how much they're allowed, to charge to their customers? It seems to me that as a business, insurance companies should be able to charge as much as they want. Will the companies ever reach these caps? Probably not, but it's just... conceptually, it's just maddening to me. And age-based tax credits, what dumbass came up with this idea? It just doesn't make any sense. I don't know what these buffoons are thinking with this one. Let's see. Oh yeah, there's that so-called Cadillac tax. People pretty much punishing people for having good insurance. And I hate this for the same reason I hate graduated income tax. Because everybody should be paying a flat tax. As a rule, I don't think any standards that are arbitrary should be legislated upon. What defines upper, middle, and lower class is completely arbitrary. Some government bureaucrats just decided it was so. There's no, physical, subjective standard that you can determine who's wealthy and who isn't. It's all just subjective. What defines quality health insurance? If you call up Anthem and ask them for a quality plan, so they're not going to be able to say, oh yeah, our quality plan. No, there's specific things that are covered, specific things that aren't. And the fact that the government gets to decide who has quality and not quality health insurance when they can't even distinguish between small and large crowd sizes, frankly, just makes me twitch with anger inside. Anyway, none of that even matters. This bill's going to go down in flames. I'm not even going to discuss the Congressional Budget Office report that came out recently because it's just pretty much a joke. Look at what they did with their Obamacare predictions. But the left hates it mostly because they just want to rain fire down on Trump regardless of what he's doing, and half the right hates it because it's the worst of all time. Now, if the Democrats in Congress were smart, they would support the bill, probably in a quiet manner to not upset their voters, then pass the bill because this is their best case scenario when it comes to what they're going to get from the right. The other proposal that's been gaining a lot of momentum is Rand Paul's individual health pools plan. And I really like that plan because it's very free market oriented, but the left would just hate this plan. The left would hate it. So this faux replacement might be the best shot they have at keeping some semblance of Obamacare. But it doesn't matter because this is all going to go down in flames soon enough because it's a piece of shit. All right, so I want to move internationally a little bit. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, I probably pronounced that wrong, of Turkey, and his political party over there are trying to pass these constitutional amendments that pretty much revert Turkey back to, or not back to, just to an executive presidency. So it does the following. First, presidential and parliamentary elections are going to happen simultaneously, and the president is allowed to be the leader of the political party and pick and choose who's going to be on the parliamentary ticket. So effectively, the president will control the parliament, eliminate parliament's right to interpellation, and pretty much interpellation is pretty much like asking the president to explain an action and potentially asking to reform it. It's just pretty much another check on the executive branch from the parliament. He's eliminating that. It does give the president criminal liability, so parliament can still impeach if it's necessary, but the executive branch will gain control of the judiciary. Yeah, that's about it according to Al Jazeera, but pretty much he's just eliminating all checks and balances on himself, well, not all of them, but a significant number of them. So he's trying to get these passed, so he sends a few of his folks, Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, I think is how you pronounce it, and Family Minister Fatma Betul Sayan Kaya, each on a separate occasion to rally support for this referendum from their consulate in Rotterdam in the Netherlands. So both times the Netherlands turned them away, saying they didn't want to have these sort of repressive measures being rallied on their soil. So of course Erdogan's supporters protested, but then Erdogan himself went up and did this almost Trumpian speech. He says, quote, "Ban our foreign minister from flying however much you like, but from now on, let's see how your flights will end in Turkey." And then at a rally, he calls the Dutch, quote, "Nazi remnants and fascists and a banana republic." Mark Rutte, R-U-T-T-E, is the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, and of course he said, they were out of line, but also that he, wasn't hopeful for a peaceful solution based on the events that had unfolded. So look, my take on this, obviously Erdogan, however you pronounce it, was in the wrong in the sense that he acted like a child with his rants about the Dutch. But should the Netherlands have denied his people entry? Not at all. They have the right to do that, but they shouldn't have. I'm also pretty sure, though, I'm not 100% sure of this, but I heard somewhere that one of the Vienna treaties that state that countries aren't allowed to deny other countries access to their consulates, this would really put the Netherlands in the wrong. But regardless, there's a whole opposite side of the story here with Erdogan's people. There's apparently a lot of forces working against them over there in Turkey. They have frequent regime change, so nothing really gets done. There's a lot of conspiracy theories being mainstreamed. This one fairly big one is this uber-wealthy Rothschild guy and an Israeli-backed party called the Zio Kemalist Deep State is secretly murdering people to try to overthrow Erdogan, and the Treaty of Lausanne from 1923 is going to expire in 2023. This all really amounts to just a really intense hatred of the West, which kind of makes all these terrorists and stuff seem a little bit less out of left field. The Middle East in general is pretty much convinced that the entirety of the West is out to get them, and that will kill any leader that they put up, etc. So, and that's neither here nor there, I guess, but It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, since both Erdogan and the Netherlands are both in the wrong on this one. Regardless of all this dumbass bickering, though, these amendments just suck. This is the kind of thing that sticks around a country for a long time. Comes in appearing helpful, but then some leader gets in there and just takes it too far, abuses their power, and then, what are you going to do? You voted to give him power in the first place, so... And giving one person that much power over the country is so dangerous. Extremely hard to reverse, and I really hope Turkey will come to its senses and vote it down. Speaking of the Netherlands, though, they had their election today. So the reason this election is getting a lot of attention is because they're referring to one of the candidates for Prime Minister, Geert Wilders, as Dutch Trump. His party, the Party for Reform, they want to ban the Quran and get rid of mosques, for example, which, is obviously far more extreme than Trump, but of course everyone who doesn't like Trump just associates any authoritarians or fascistic politicians with him. So Wilders was actually banned from entering the UK in 2009 after he made this movie linking the Quran and terrorism. And then a few months ago, he was convicted of hate speech after he asked the crowd at one of his rallies in 2014 whether they wanted, quote, fewer or more Moroccans in the Netherlands. And everybody responded with fewer. But he didn't get a sentence. He was acquitted. But he just still doesn't seem like a great guy. He's promised to deliver a total de-Islamification of the Netherlands if elected. He's called the Quran, quote, the Mein Kampf of today. He wants to exit the EU. I mean, exiting the EU probably isn't that bad. But the rest is pretty crazy. I mean, if the obvious bigotry is enough to not like him, then what do you think would happen from a foreign affairs perspective if he was elected? I mean, the Netherlands would instantly lose positive relations with probably most or all of the Middle East, almost instantly. I can pretty much guarantee you. So, not to mention the authoritarian and religious freedom issues associated with this. Now, luckily, it looks like he either lost or is losing to Mark Rutte, the incumbent prime minister. But, I mean, it's sad that it had to be considered, honestly, in my opinion. It really is telling of the current state of the world. Okay, so I know this is kind of old news, but it was fairly big news, and since this podcast didn't exist at the time, I do want to discuss it a little bit. So originally, that travel ban from Trump had been in effect for Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. Gave a 90-day ban on all those countries except Syria, which was indefinite. The governments of all these countries were given requests to start providing information on their citizens necessary for adjudication for entry to the U.S. I mean, that's it in essence. But, I mean, if you remember, the left went nuts, started pulling out sob stories of people being turned away at the airport, massive protests and all that, just kind of like normal. And, the rollout was, it was just horrendous. People who, had to enforce it were hearing about it on the news, and, they didn't know what to do, how to enforce it, etc. Then it was blocked by that judge on, I believe, the Ninth Circuit, for pretty much no actual legal reason, mostly just because he didn't like it, and that was about it for a month. So he signed that new executive order. Which effectively is the same as the old one. Except it excludes Iraq, and Syria's ban is 90 days, just like the others. But now a Hawaiian judge, actually today, or maybe last night, has blocked this new updated ban, saying that it's essentially a Muslim ban and that it'll hurt Hawaii's economy because of tourism and, whatnot. Okay, so the first thing I want to say about this is the following. I don't like this executive order. I think it would have made much more sense to just do like a blanket 90-day immigration ban, just to avoid these sorts of criticism altogether. But this isn't a Muslim ban, it never has been. The word Muslim is not so much as mentioned in the order. right? Those countries happen to be majority Muslim, but they also don't keep enough documentation on their citizens. If Trump wanted to actually ban Muslims, he would have had to ban many other countries: Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, India, to name a few. The top 10 countries that have the highest Muslim population in the world are, from 10th to 1st, Morocco, Algeria, Turkey, Iran, Egypt, Nigeria, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, and Indonesia. Only one of the countries Trump banned is on that list. So clearly, he is not out to just ban Muslims, and that is a ridiculous claim. That's according to worldatlas.com, by the way. So the fact of the matter is that those 7 countries were identified as high risk by the Obama administration, which is exactly why he chose them, so that this outrage over it is just out of control, and it really just not intellectually honest on the left's part, in my opinion. Sorry, not sorry. Another story recently is Sessions' firing of those 46 U.S. attorneys. Look, there's really nothing to this story, frankly. Bill Clinton fired 93 U.S. attorneys right after he was sworn in 1993. Obama replaced a few in 2009. As the Daily Wire elegantly put it, it's a Nothingburger. But of course, the media has to set their hair on fire over it, although they do that with everything at this point, so no real surprise there. This just goes to prove yet again that the mainstream media is, just unwilling to report fairly on political issues anymore, but hey, what can you do? And wiretapping. So if you remember, Trump accused Obama of wiretapping Trump Tower during the election. He didn't really present any evidence. Mark Levin presented a case that seemed somewhat plausible. But there really wasn't any smoking gun in there. For me, this story is a non-story until someone presents some real evidence of this. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is because everybody misses the real issue in this discussion. So we already know for a fact that the Obama administration was wiretapping people. They're going to have to figure out whether he was allowed to do so legally, and they're going to say it's fine. And you know why? The Patriot Act. The real story here is the fact that the Patriot Act is an invasion of privacy and a usurpation of due process. Most of the time that it's used, it's not even against terrorists; it's against drug dealers and such. So yes, I hope the Trump administration is going to repeal that, though I doubt they will, since it gives them more power and makes their jobs easier. But Okay, so last topic I want to discuss is the whole situation with Trump's 2005 tax returns being released the other day. So this was actually really funny. If you haven't heard, Rachel Maddow was advertising the living shit out of this thing. Acting like she'd found some kind of crazy bombshell, and she had a special guest to discuss the severity of it, ready and everything. But then Trump beats her to it, and he released it first and showed that you'd never guess, Trump paid taxes. Wow. So Rachel Maddow looks like a buffoon, which she does herself on a daily basis, but it's always nice to see it happen dramatically on the national news cycle. There's one part of it they're saying is bad, though. Apparently Trump is interested in repealing this alternative minimum tax, which increased his 2005 tax rate from what would have been 4.5% to about 25%, and cost him probably an extra $20 or $30 million. So they're just saying it must be selfish, a selfish move on his part. Look, this AMT tax applies to anyone who makes more than like $250,000, and it's just a really unfair tax. Like I said earlier, taxing based on arbitrary standards of wealth class is just absurd. There should be a simple, flat tax similar to what Ted Cruz had proposed during the primaries, but in the end, I don't really care what his motivations are, so long as the policy he creates is good. And I like this policy, so it really doesn't matter to me that it'll save him money in the long run if he can get it abolished. So, okay, wow, we certainly went through a lot of stuff today. Thank you all for listening. Hey, I'm excited to announce today that we are now available on Stitcher and Google Play, so check us out there and subscribe for free. Also visit our Patreon page, so that's patreon.com/themediator. So patreon.com/themediator, THEMEDIATOR, all one word. Your donations, no matter how large or small, are much appreciated. And will help me immensely to grow this podcast to 5 days a week, get live shows, live questions going, video shows, etc. As always, our official site is sagachefstories.com/content, so SAGACHEFSTORIES.com/content, and click on the Mediator. I want to implore all of you listening to share this podcast with your friends. We can't grow this podcast alone. We we really need your help. We're currently working on getting onto iTunes, TuneIn, all that kind of good stuff. So stay tuned for more updates. But if you like our show, any help that you can provide to grow it is immensely appreciated. Also, if you'd like to advertise with us, go ahead and contact us. My email address is jonahthemediator@gmail.com. So JONAHETMEDIATOR@gmail.com. So yeah, join us again Friday as well for our first Fact Friday. We'll be talking about the Trump administration's actions so far. So thank you for listening. I'm Jonah St. Cloud, and this has been The Mediator.